shifting quarterback wins leader fan radio network.
A lot of things that are easily correctable.
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 23 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Welcome back. Tuesday production of the afternoon Aardvark on a decidedly overcast, getting chillier by the minute Tuesday afternoon here in the Twin Cities that we affectionately refer to as Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro, the host of the program, former Ink Stain Wretch, newspaper of the Twin Cities. Guardsy is here as well, the two-time state high school tennis champion and also the producer of the show. He is the voice of the Golden Gopher women's basketball team. He's the sideline reporter for Golden Gopher football. He is the co-host of the PJ Flex show. He is the co-host of the basketball coaches show as well, correct? On TV?
Yeah.
Have I left any jobs out? Those are the main ones, right?
Yeah, I think you got it.
Yeah, most of
off the top of your head, too. That was impressive.
Yeah, that's usually my memory doesn't work that well, but there may be more coming. Who's to say?
There's a couple of things in the
percolating.
Yeah, we'll talk. There's a couple of things in the hopper.
Interesting. All right, good. Well, we'll miss you. We'll really miss you. But, I mean, it won't affect any more days off at this point. I mean, you're still going to be on the show. It's not going to be on the show, off the show, on the show. It's not going to be like every other day.
No, nothing like that.
Nothing that will be that dramatic?
No, I don't think so.
Well, at least
not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. You never know.
And not now. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line has indeed been rebooted at 646-86. We have a power-packed broadcast today, according to the uglydeck.com guest lineup. We're going to give you details about an in-studio guest at 3:30 and a guest who will most decidedly not be in studio. Just check the calendar to know exactly why, but is generally speaking a Tuesday regular on the program. The shifting quarterback wins. Man, a lot has happened since we left the air yesterday, between then and now, that kind of fascinate me. All the moves kind of fascinate me because some of them, look, if we're just a dead set lock to get Kyler Murray, then you could say, well, all these other moves are academic and we don't necessarily have to worry about them. But that's the question. Can we guarantee that we've got Kyler Murray locked up if we've decided that that's the direction we're going to go? Because we've had all kinds of quarterback movement that otherwise, if for some reason we can't get our hands on Kyler Murray, even though we want him, things get pretty interesting pretty fast, right? I guess the biggest news that potentially might have affected the Purple is the Geno Smith news.
Right, to the Jets.
In this case, nobody waited to sign him as a free agent on, I think it was going to be Wednesday. The Jets said, we want you back. So he got traded from the Raiders to the New York Jets, correct?
Yes.
Where he had been before, Geno Smith. And
a sixth-round pick. As
recently as yesterday, we were told by Kevin Seifert that Geno Smith would be not a distant second to Kyler Murray, that he viewed, at least based on what he's been told by Vikings people, that Geno was viewed as another viable candidate to be the veteran quarterback that we bring in. Now, that option, the fan has learned, has been eliminated.
Let me try this blindly.
Okay.
Just some quarterback wins.
I like that. Quarterback wins.
Quarterback wins. We're high tech.
Are you sure there aren't any obscenities on this?
I'm pretty sure it's just windy.
Just winds.
Windy
it's not
weather.
Anybody speaking all of a sudden?
I don't think so.
Saying bleep you or anything like that?
We'll find out. That'd be quite a hack.
We'll find out that's true. I kind of like it. I don't mind the swirling winds. But there's more. Example. One of the big-time national pro football reporters wrote this. So, with Geno Smith out of Vegas, the Raiders need a veteran quarterback to help a potential young QB who could be joining their team. The assumption being that it's going to be Mendoza, correct? And then this writer lays out Cousins, Murray, Wentz, Garoppolo are all available. So that got me to thinking about, well, maybe that would interest Kirk Cousins at this point. The assumption is that that Mendoza is going to start from the beginning, but maybe they have other plans. Tom Brady's Tom Brady. Who knows what? He always thinks third, fourth, fifth level. We assume he's still got great influence there, although the rumor was that if it was up to him, they would not have traded their all-pro defensive pass rusher. What's his name?
Crosby? Max?
Max Crosby? No, Max.
Yeah, what's his name? I'm looking at him.
Look him up, just for us to be sure. I don't know if that's true. The Raiders got a bundle for him.
Yes.
Right? A couple of number ones, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, I don't know how much influence Brady has about what's going to be going on at the quarterback situation. But it's where already you see the league is not just here to serve the Vikings.
Max Crosby,
thank you. The league is not here just, I know we want to believe that in this town, but it's not. There are other complications. There's other teams who have different ideas and may also be every bit as ambitious as you think your favorite football team is. So then you start saying, well, if for some reason, again, you've decided you can't get Kyler, then should Cousins be part of that conversation? Because now Geno Smith is not available. And everybody says, according to the prevailing quarterback wins, that you're going to have to probably give up 2 or 3 number ones to get the 49ers backup quarterback. Now, I'm exaggerating, but apparently not by much. Apparently the Niners are being absurdly demanding in what they say. You want to talk to us about this guy? That's what you're going to have to give up. So far, there doesn't seem to be a lot of movement there either. In addition, how about this headline? As Aaron Rodgers takes his sweet time, the Steelers, via Mike Garofalo, are, quote, nosing around, unquote, the quarterback market.
Nosing around.
Sniffing around. Do you have like sniff sounds?
I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, that might be a little bit aggressive. But regardless, you know what that does for me? And I did. I'm not trying to troll. I'm really not. I laid out earlier when I saw that particular observation. I said it's not too late. We actually had that as the theme of the program a couple of weeks ago. Playing off the old Carole King classic, Too Late, Baby. Or It's Too Late, I think is actually the name of the song. Too Late, Baby's in the lyrics. So I'm trying to figure out what this all means. And again, it might mean nothing if it's as simple as we getting Kyler Murray. But as Seifert told us yesterday, we can't gamble that the same way unless there's certainty. Because we played that gambling game. We put basically all our cards in all our chickens in one basket, I think is the cliche. And we ended up getting burned on Daniel Jones, who we assumed we were going to be able to keep.
We thought so.
As the hedge in case J.J. McCarthy was not very good. So this is where the clock is already starting. It's ticking in that regard. Other moves have an impact, I think, on how this thing might well go, correct? What's the cliche? Like the dominoes fall. Like the first domino falls.
The butterfly effect.
And then that makes everything else, a number of other moves and fall into notion because many teams might have their own quarterback desires, whether it's to have a starter, somebody who could challenge as a starter, or as a backup as well, and they may have their own ambition. They're not going to wait to see what the Vikings are going to do first if they can help it in any of these areas. Now, we'd heard yesterday the chance that Kyler Murray might not happen tomorrow, that he might want to do the tour. Now, originally, the Jets were allegedly one of those teams. Clearly, either Kyler told the Jets he's not interested, or the Jets said we don't want to wait, or we like this other idea better. And there's people in our audience who think Geno Smith is a better option at this point than Kyler Murray on the basis of not last year, but the previous couple of seasons when he seemed to kind of resurrect his career. I said, if you force me to make a decision, I'd probably lean Kyler over Geno, but I wouldn't want either. Now, let me ask you about a tweet. I think this is from just a rube, but I found it very sensible. And it was kind of reacting. Oh, I know what it was reacting to. Robert Smith is back on the Vikings quarterback story. He laid out, he just basically asked the question with accompanying photos. Who do you want? Do you want Kyler or do you want Kirk O'Chains? And a lot of people, not surprisingly, weighed in, correct? Eggs in one basket. I guess the chickens wouldn't be in the basket. The chickens would be dead. The eggs that they laid would be the thing in the basket.
But how many
I guess
chickens?
they could be alive. That's true.
Yeah, you want more eggs.
Yeah, you don't want.
You don't
it's
need
not like
more
one
chickens.
batch and you just going to get rid of the chickens.
Yeah, chickens produce
unless you're
more.
Glenn Taylor. Well, that's what we were told. I mean,
That's
I don't
true.
know if that's true or not.
You're right.
You're
right.
That's very, very different. Anyway, here's what he wrote in answering that question. See what you think of this, because I think it's a pretty sensible observation. Again, the choice in the Robert Smith question posed is Kirk O'Chains or Kyler. If McCarthy, let me back up. If the Vikings believe McCarthy is salvageable, it's Kirk all day long. He'd be an excellent mentor for JJ, both on mechanics and the playbook strategy. If J-Mac is toast, it's Kyler. He has far more long-term upside compared to Cousins, which he acknowledges that's still not a lot. I think there's some logic to that.
I think that's very smart.
I think it's very smartly put.
I agree.
Because, and we talked about this with Seifert yesterday, too. If you bring Kyler in and he's good to very good, you can't dismiss him after 1 year again, dump him unceremoniously like you did Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that again and go to JJ, your best receiver, Justin Jefferson, with a straight face and say, we're still believing in McCarthy. But if you really, and this is the key, it may be, you could make the argument that the decision the Vikings make in that regard goes a long way, or will go a long way, to answering the question he poses on deep down how the Vikings feel about J.J. McCarthy. How deep down, behind the scenes, not for public record, but off the record, they are on, we miscalculated. He's not what we thought he is. We're not convinced he's ever going to get there. And we sort of have to move on. I think you could make a correlation there that would be logical.
It's a very, you'll be able to do the old, I hear what you say, but trust what you do. It's a very easy thing to follow if they bring in Kyler Murray rather than Kirk.
Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686. On the other hand, this just might make the Vikings, these moves already, if they won't listen to reason on Aaron Rodgers and see the opening that exists, if they showed some aggressiveness, they may feel all that much more committed to we have to make it work at this point with Kyler Murray, because the guy we viewed as a decent backup plan, if somehow that went awry or the money got weird for some reason because somebody else got involved, Geno Smith is now off the table. 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. Let's get our first pause in, and we'll set up the rest of a very busy show. I'd like to get to a news on the march today. That's at least the objective. We'll see if we get there. The uglydeck.com guest lineup includes Lou Nanny at 5:30 by telephone, and the redoubtable, intrepid KARE 11 reporter Lou Raguse is going to join us in studio at the bottom of this hour. He's got as of today, a brand spanking new book out. It's called Mastermind, and the backstory on it is stunning. He got a hold of a tragic story, a story that has so many tentacles to it that I think he covered through much of the events taking place. Now he's put it together in a new book, not to be confused with his highly successful Vanished in Vermilion, correct?
Right.
I think last time we had him in studio was to talk about the book.
It was.
We've had him on many times since then, but last time in studio. So he's going to be with us at 3:30. I'm hoping for news on the march. I want to read very quickly some Some text coming in regarding the swirling quarterback wins. Kirko will be much more expensive than Kyler because, it's Kirko. So that makes Kyler the obvious choice if we can get him. Do we know, though, that Kyler's going to go as easy as we think? I know there's permutations to how you do it with the guaranteed money he has. We'll see. Jason in Orange City, if they go the Cousins route, it seems they also need another old backup vet because the odds increase those guys will get hurt like Wentz last year. And going to Brosmer or 2026 version of Brosmer is clearly a recipe for an L. That said, I vote for signing Cousins, Jake Browning.
Oh, wow.
Who just became available.
Okay.
Or his ilk, and keeping McCarthy. I don't see a world where Murray is a 7-year Super Bowl champ with us or anyone. What are the chances the Vikings don't bring in any quarterback at all due to nothing too exciting being out there? There's a good chance there won't be anything that exciting being out there, but that will not stop them from signing at least one. I think they've learned their lesson. I think they feel too vulnerable. I think the head coach feels too vulnerable to go down that particular road. I get the necessity for the quarterback talk, but anyone saying that JJ is washed is foolish, and I guarantee no one with the Vikings thinks that. He's played 10 games. Another dumb narrative that annoys me is that bringing up in competition would upset JJ's ego like he's some kid. That's lazy projection. He's going to be fine. Well, sadly, I think they were worried about that last year. They shouldn't have been. I never believe anybody should, but that's sort of the way it works in the National Football League. I think that one's not worth going into. Is it really that straightforward if they bring in Murray? He only costs us $1 million or something ridiculous little, so I could see the scenario where that doesn't mean they've given up on McCarthy, but Kyler Murray's too damn cheap to pass up on. That's the number one question, Michael writes, that needs to be answered. Are they done with JJ or do they still have hope? It is the key question. I'm still holding out, writes 763 guy, for Mac Jones, despite allegedly the Niners making huge demands. On the flip side, can you bring Kyler in and just hand him the starting job? In a best case scenario, the answer would be no. You wouldn't have to obligate yourself to anything. But if you're competing with another team and you've already lost the Geno Smith option, and you may not feel like you want Cousins or you have any interest in Aaron Rodgers and several others, you may not have a choice. That's where it gets kind of tricky and kind of interesting. Don't, 1, put all your eggs in one basket, or 2, count your chickens.
There you go.
Before they hatch.
Which is also eggs.
Is it sad that when you say Jets, I immediately think Sharks versus the Jets rather than an NFL team? Do you really want the drama queen Rodgers on the team? I'll give you a one-word answer. Yes. Yes. I'll shout it out if you want from the mountaintops. Yes. I don't think it's likely to happen. Dan Minnesota heard on 9 to noon. Rob B. That would be Brzezinski?
Yeah, we call him Briz on 9 to noon.
Oh, is that what they're going with? Have they always gone with?
I don't know. I've never heard it until today. That's what Nordo and PA were going with. Briz.
Okay. Rob B. has the free agent market right where he wants it. And those teams that spent yesterday were bad teams that drafted poorly in recent years. So we're waiting for the market to come to us. Now, Seifert did tell us that's largely what he expected the Vikings to do, that they weren't going to be very splashy. I would argue, though, part of the reason they're not being very splashy is they probably can't afford to be that splashy at this point. Not necessarily that you have to be a bad team if you try to make a splash the first day. We sure as hell were splashy last year.
That's it.
So I don't think we can be too haughty about the approach that we've taken. And the truth is, there's some good teams that were splashy on day one, and there's some teams, bad teams, that probably overpaid.
Right. You
can make the argument that the Raiders, for the big-time center they got from the Ravens, they overpaid. They may look in their minds, though, as we got to start somewhere, and we need an anchor with our young quarterback, right? And a center who doesn't have a butt sweat issue.
Exactly. Winning free agency day 1 and 2 is fun. It's great if you're a fan.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily guarantee you anything.
No, it doesn't. That part's also true. Instead of wind, could it be the quarterback waves crashing into the Minnesota shoreline might sound more pleasing over the radio? Oh, no, that's
a splash.
That's a Lavelle making a splash.
The Twins.
in ways last Friday that we really
didn't need. Was that last Friday?
2 Fridays ago. You weren't with us.
I was there for that one.
Yeah. Dan, could it be the Arizona Cardinals are waiting for the Vikings or another team to try and get a draft pick from them instead of outright releasing Murray? Well, possible. I don't know what the possibilities are there because
he's already given his emotional goodbye. And
he has, but so did Geno Smith, and ultimately the Jets decided we don't want to wait. And I guess you could argue, what did they give up? You said a 6?
Yeah, let me double check. It was a 6, and I think a 7 was coming back as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. The Jets are sending a 6th-round pick in exchange for Smith and a 7th-rounder.
Well, all I'll say is it's getting curiouser and curiouser by the minute, right? Because it looks like Shefty's talking about Murray's future. By the way, his record in 87 career starts, 38, 48, and 1. Don't text me with Sam Darnold 1-loss records. Please, don't.
What about Geno Smith?
And by the way, that's true, too. By the way, was Darnold a starter as long as, Kyler was basically the guy, other than due to injury, for 7 years, was he not? That's a hell of an opportunity. Size. That's a pretty big sample size as well, so we'll indeed see. I wonder what Orlovsky is saying now about, has he weighed in on Kyler Murray? I tried to text Sean Salisbury because I'm curious to get his view.
Yeah. And
I haven't gotten a response yet. I think he's in the classification of he hasn't been coached great, which would seem to indicate he believes there's more there to get on Kyler Murray. Now, in defense of Sean Salisbury, he did tell us he thought there was more meat on the Sam Darnold bone as well.
He was very adamant.
And he ended up being pretty accurate, at least until we got to the last regular season game and our playoff game. But then again, Darnold did end up with a Super Bowl ring.
He did, and played really well in the playoffs.
He did.
Including the NFC Championship game. I vaguely remember Orlovsky a week or so ago saying he didn't feel like Murray was the fit for the Vikings that others did. Like, he understands
Orlovsky?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, he's not.
Right.
He's not unless you change some things.
He understood why Murray would want to be here, because every quarterback wants to. We are the QB rehabilitation mecca. But for what he's good at and what Kevin O'Connell asks of his QBs, he didn't think it was the cleanest fit of all time.
If you could get both at a reasonable price, why not bring in both? Open competition between the three. Well, who does he mean by both? 612 guy, who do you mean? Who are you thinking of bringing in addition to Kyler Murray? Cousins as well, maybe?
Maybe that's the other one.
But then you're back to these guys, even if they shouldn't have options, they probably do. And they're going to go to the place where it's a cleaner situation. They're going to go not just where the money is, but where it's the cleanest situation, is it not?
I would think. Yeah.
And is Cousins going to be signed for the minimum again, too? Or is he, as one of our texters said, is he different all the time? Because he's Kirk O'Chain.
He seems to be different.
He always seems to find a way, doesn't he?
Yes, he seems to be different.
Yeah, very true.
But he's got a couple nice houses because of it.
He's done very, very well for himself. Lou Raguse in studio. That is scheduled next. We will get back to the swirling quarterback wins for sure. Louie, so some good hockey conversation. I've got some news on the March stuff to get to. I've got some Minnesota Timberwolves stuff to get to as well. So it's going to be a very busy, eclectic program that we wrap up at the usual time, 6:30. Join in about 2 hours. I've got news on the March. Got a lot of good stuff on the Top 5 at 5 yet to come. Lou Raguse, kind enough to join us in studio on book release day for him. It's always a Tuesday in the book industry. And on this day, his new book, Mastermind, and he was kind enough to bring copies to both Guardsy and me, along with him for his visit, A True Story of Obsession, Survival, and Justice. Whoa. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me here, Dan. It's great to be here in person.
It's good to see you in person for sure. I think the last time you were here in person was Vanished in Vermilion.
I think it was.
Correct?
Yep, that was my first book.
So, we're going to get to a lot about the story and what you found so compelling about it and some of the details, which are pretty remarkable for those who weren't paying attention to the story. How do you, but I'm always interested in some of the I guess you could say, inner workings, including how you decide on a title for a book. Because let's face it, for a lot of people, it's got to grab them. The book could be outstanding. It could be award-winning, right? It could be worthy of a Pulitzer Prize. But if it's got a title people kind of yawn at, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of the title because I thought of it myself. And same with Vanishing Vermilion. But
you went in both cases with alliteration, which we love on this show. That's a start.
And the antagonist in the book his name is Tim Amaker. And everyone who knows him from the Twin Cities knows him as Atlas, because that's what he told everyone his name is, except for his Taekwondo students, because he was a Taekwondo instructor in White Bear Lake, and they all called him Master Amaker. And so...
Did he demand that of them, or did they just do it out of... Is it considered a term of respect in that business?
Out of respect.
In that industry?
Out of respect, but at the same time, his girlfriend that he had at the very end, who he lived with, referred to him as Master. Which is one of the many bizarre things about this story.
Okay, so give us... Because this is a story you reported extensively, right? Give us, for those who have not been paying attention or maybe forgot, sort of the framework, the basics of this particular tragedy.
Yeah, and the way that it came to me as a reporter is kind of a good way to tell the story, because we heard there was a shooting. A woman was shot right outside Family Wise, which is a supervised parenting center on University Avenue, where if there's custody issues and if a judge orders that one of the parents can only have supervised visits, that's one of these places that can facilitate that. So that's what was happening. Tim Amaker was having a supervised visit with the son that he shared with Nikki Lenway, who is the protagonist in the book. And she was going there to pick up her son and was shot right outside the front door of Family Wise, broad daylight. And so it came like a shooting. And, you know, when I heard the circumstances of where it happened, I'm like, well, who's the father? Like, that's the suspect, right? And then I heard actually he had an airtight alibi. He was inside the building when it happened. So that means that we didn't just have an attempted murder here. We had an attempted murder plot, you know, like there was more people involved.
And how quickly was this case solved?
It took a couple weeks. It was enough for Nikki to be pretty worried when she survived. Okay. And this is her story, by the way. She eventually, you know, told me that she wanted her story put out to the world. She thought it could help people. And that's how the book really got started. But she was in the hospital, and Tim Atlas had not been arrested yet, nor had the young woman who he's living with, who referred to him as Master. Her name is Colleen Larson. And so they had to keep her under a secret name at the hospital, have protection for her. There were police officers there at all times. She works for the Minneapolis Police Department. She's a crime scene investigator. But this happened while she was off duty. So they were onto it right away, but it was a pretty big investigation before they could make arrests.
They were onto it. It was pretty clear. They think, regardless of how that it took a minute or two, it was fairly clear they knew the direction on who they think was one way or another was going to be responsible.
Well, they did for sure for Atlas. It's
Atlas,
okay,
yes, right.
It's going to be him. But then who was the shooter? And it was a slim figure with a dark hoodie. You know, they couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, frankly. Right. And so, but that was the one clue that Nikki was able to help them with. No, the shooter was a woman. She couldn't talk because the bullet went through her throat. So she's helping the detectives with a Sharpie and a notepad, trying to write down and clue them on where to go with this thing.
How significant were her injuries?
I mean, it was less than a millimeter from severing a major artery that she would have died right there. I mean, it is a miracle that she's alive.
So a lot of the backstory that you explore and build off of and really drill down on is the frustration of the victim in this case for what she withstood prior to even being shot, correct?
Yeah, to put it this way, Tim Amaker Atlas went from being a bad boyfriend to being a controlling boyfriend to being a scorned ex who was trying to retaliate to becoming a dangerous ex, and thankfully was stopped before he became a deadly ex. And so he was able to manipulate the system with false reports to police, false reports to Child Protective Services, claiming that Nikki was abusing their son. And as ridiculous as it sounds, because I remember, we heard some of that during the trial, But it wasn't until I really explored the civil case, the family court case, and interviewed Nikki that I realized how many people along the way believed his lies. And that's what's frustrating.
You write he filed literally dozens of what ended up being false police reports, correct? Mm-hmm. Is there a common thread as to why the system seemed to fail so badly? Is this a classic case of, well, we have to be sure because the accusations are serious. We're trying to protect the child. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we have to almost think the worst. What was why was his strategy so successful in convincing the courts to think that what he was saying had some merit?
Well, it was really finding just one person that was willing to believe him in each of these cases. And so, the first reports would maybe go to police and Child Protective Services, and they would, investigate and find that it was unfounded. But then a new one would come in, maybe a different CPS worker would be assigned to it. Eventually, on Christmas Eve one year, a CPS worker got the case. She was sympathetic to what he was claiming.
Christmas Eve.
And she went to Nikki's house and took the boy away. And he could not be with his mom on Christmas because she was willing to believe the lies that Atlas was telling. And not just that, but he was grooming the boy to say these things. He would, we're talking about, at age 2, 3 years old, 4 years old, to say things. And then once he would say the things he wants to do, he'd record it. And so when the professionals, like when we're talking about the parenting, like the psychologists that would look at this stuff before the custody trial, they could clearly see, well, this is staged. You're doing more harm to him by doing these little interviews, and who knows? The kid wants to please his dad and wants to please his mom. The kid doesn't know all the drama that's going on, and so he was able to take advantage of that. And it would never be successful, like forever. Eventually, it would get caught and be unfounded, and it would go back to the way it was, and that would just fuel his anger to keep going.
Does Nikki talk to you very specifically about the frustration of the system repeatedly failing to this extent?
Yeah, I mean, that is what largely the first half of this book is, or more. And I should say that Minneapolis police did a great job investigating the shooting at the end, and Hennepin County Attorney's Office did an amazing job prosecuting it. The system worked on the back end, but it was on the front end. There was a city prosecutor that charged Nikki with assaulting Atlas based off of a claim that he made in a grainy surveillance video. He claimed that she ran over his foot intentionally when they're doing a child exchange at his Taekwondo studio. He waited to at an opportune moment. I won't give too much away. I'll leave some of it for the book, to report this to police. He didn't report it when it allegedly happened. And he only gave this police officer one video where you couldn't tell, and I've seen the video, like you can't tell from that angle. And a city prosecutor was willing to file a charge, and Nikki had to stand trial on assault charges long before Atlas ever had to stand trial on attempted murder.
And did the case fall apart pretty quickly?
The jury took about 5 minutes to come back and say not guilty, and then the judge went on to expunge the case so that it's cleared out of the records and can affect her no longer.
So on Atlas, a lot of times in stories like these, we find out, well, for whatever reason, he's just one of those individuals who people believe, or he's slick, or he's very effective in his ability to strategize and control, and that people gravitate towards him, and they're just they tend to like him, even if we find out that he's making stuff up as he goes. Does he fall into that classification?
100%. I mean, it was actually a challenging part of writing the book, is I had to find people that really liked Atlas to talk to them to really show why anyone would want to be with him in the first place. And he was magnetic. He was a Taekwondo instructor that was essentially a role model to, countless children that he taught, and a father figure in some ways, in that position. He was an amazing dancer, so he would go clubbing in Minneapolis, and just the dance floor would clear because him and his friends would just, the women wanted him. And this is a funny detail from his next door neighbor. He had a purple light bulb on his porch, and when it was on, it indicated that Atlas was open for business. and women could stop by.
Really?
Yep. And he said that the neighbor told me he didn't believe it at first either. But then one day he saw that the light had turned off, and he saw a car waiting out front with a woman who waited there until the light turned back on, and then she went in.
That's remarkable. How old is he during this whole period?
He's a little bit older than Nikki. So when he went on trial, he was in his early 40s.
Early 40s, okay.
So he's in his mid 40s now.
Did you have any luck tracking down and questioning any of like the CP? You mentioned the CPS worker who removes the kid on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Any of them willing to talk to you?
No, absolutely not.
No chance.
No, disappointing.
And did you ever even get them to come to the phone, or would they say, well, this legality's here, I can't possibly...
They just avoided me at all costs.
Avoided at all costs.
Yeah. I mean, and Dakota County Child Protection has received a lot of scrutiny in recent years.
Right.
Because there was the case of a mother who killed her own son, and, he never should have been with her.
Right.
Killed him in the car. It was a really horrible case that we covered. And there were lots of cracks in Dakota County CPS from that, and that was heavily reported as well. So it's an organization that, or it's a department, I should say, that has seen its share of scrutiny. And, I also tried to get, at that shared parenting center where the shooting happened, right before the shooting, Atlas had the workers there convinced that Nikki was the problem and that he shouldn't have to do this. And they felt so bad for him. I have emails that they had written saying, I've never seen somebody, cause so many problems for a guy like this before. Well, those workers, I confirmed, got fired or left willingly at least and no longer work there because that was obviously a very bad look for them. Yeah. Reached a couple of them by phone and they just hung up on me.
Mastermind is the name of Lou Raguse's new book, the intrepid KARE 11 reporter who joins us on a lot of subjects. Vanished in Vermilion, the last smashing success as well. Mastermind out today, I'm assuming everywhere?
Yeah. Amazon and Barnes & Noble are obviously the first two, and then it'll get into all the rest of the bookstores as well when they receive their shipment. And if you go to the front desk of your favorite local bookstore and tell them you want it, they'll order it in because that's how it works.
Can you do this book if Nikki, it sounds like she cooperated with you a lot and gave you a lot of time and a lot of, emotion. If she doesn't, can you do this book? I assume that to a large extent makes this book, her generosity in talking about stuff that can't be all that easy to talk about.
No, it absolutely, this is her story, and it wouldn't be a story if it was not for her. And really, there is a certain point where this relationship went beyond what the vast majority of controlling relationships are. But there are many points leading up to it where a lot of people out there could see themselves in this, or family members that, they're families that have a loved one, a daughter or someone that's in a relationship like this, and they're just not seeing these red flags or they don't want to see them. A psychologist told me a great way to explain it is like, and I'll use women as an example because it's the most common. A woman in this position might remember, they want to believe that the man is the one that she started dating. That's who he really is. The guy that I met, the exciting one at the very beginning. And this guy that's controlling and potentially abusive right now, that's not really him. And so if we can get back to the way it was, everything will be good again. But they don't realize that this is the real him. The person you saw at the beginning was a mirage. And so getting that through to people in these positions, it can be difficult, but that's the most important thing.
Well, I think the common wisdom, conventional wisdom would be that, and you can speak to whether this is accurate, but I think the perception is generally in these sorts of domestic situations, women are more likely to be, it's the male that tends to be more on the defensive, and the assumption of people who work the system is that it's the male that's going to be the problem. I don't know if that's true or not. You can speak to that, but if it is, that's part of what makes this interesting is that it's the polar opposite. She's the one left forced to continually explain herself for no reason other than he just keeps making stuff up.
Yeah, and her crime was wanting him to be a father figure in their son's life. Like there are points where she could have walked away, including when the son was born. And she thought she's seen what a good guy he is with other people's kids at the Taekwondo studio. She wants her son to have a father figure. And so there were times that she could have walked away, she chose not to, and she ended up being punished for it.
What is Alice's background? I mean, where did he come from? And what kind of clues does that give us in terms of who he ultimately was revealed to be?
Well, he's a St. Paul kid, and his father took his own life when Atlas was pretty young, and that was a major point that shaped him in his life. He found Taekwondo as a teen, and that helped shape him in a positive way. When he gets to be an adult, he's a semi-professional dancer, and then goes full-time into this Taekwondo and running a gym type stuff. And so, what shapes him into who he is, I think that he goes personally a lot back to his father, losing his father at a young age. That was a moment in his life that put him on a path.
The number of, we see stories similar to this, any of the crime shows on the networks, 48 Hours, et cetera, all the big ones, where in retrospect, as the story is told, because it's already taken place, we hear all these things about the perpetrator, in many cases the husband, and we go, how could people not see this? What an operator, it's so obvious he's a compulsive liar, he's manipulating people, all that stuff. But it keeps happening, which tells us that we, as smart as we think we are, we still get bamboozled and fooled, correct?
Yeah, and if people are good at putting on a mask and they look like somebody else in public than they do in private, it can be confusing. There's a lot of gaslighting that goes out here. Well, who is the real person? Like, I want that guy, the one that we just had drinks with all the friends. He's a great guy. Everyone loves him. But then at home, when he's controlling, not letting you leave the house, things like that, it's a completely different story. And one thing that it mostly was not physical. There were a couple instances of physical abuse, but this is mostly control. And one thing that I thought was, enlightening that Nikki talked about was she could be at like a friend's wedding without him, and you would think that would be, now she can have fun, she can let loose. She said that was almost more stressful because he might be texting or calling, and it would create this feeling within her that she just wanted to get away from that situation, get back to him so that incessant texting and calling would stop, and she wouldn't have to worry about what he's going to say and what he's going to do.
It had to be. I mean, does she end up? A lot of times, individuals are in this kind of web, still somehow either blame themselves or they feel like, well, I got to keep working at this. I got to figure out a way out of this thing. Almost continuing to try to think the best of the other individual.
You hit the nail on the head. That's really, and she's a very empathetic person, and that played in the negative in this case. But eventually she started to believe that it was her fault and that he was mad at her for reasons that she caused. And that's part of the gaslighting that goes on from Atlas in this case. One thing that is good in this book is that she has a happy ending with love in her life. And so that's, a part where you can see the story start to turn for the positive for her. But at the same time, when Atlas saw that she was seeing someone else, that's when he dialed up the harassment.
Is she back at work?
She is.
She is.
Yep, works for the city of Minneapolis.
Interesting. All right, let's get our first pause in. I want to get a few more things in if we can on the book, and then I want to maybe, now that we have you here, get you in a couple other directions as well. If you have questions for Lou on this story or others, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. The number, as most of you know by now, is 646-86. 64686. Some have already indeed come in. We got Louie joining at 5:30 to talk hockey today. Top 5 at 5 yet to come as well. The new book, Mastermind: A True Story of Obsession, Survival, and Justice. How long ago did Vanished in Vermilion come out, by the way? How long has that been now?
2023. It was about this time. It's February of 2023.
It sold well, didn't it?
Yeah,
it did very well.
It surpassed expectations for the publisher, and that's why they asked me to do another one.
That's what I was going to ask. Does it work that way, where you have good success and they're more likely to trust your instincts that this is a story that people will pick up on as well?
Yes, and especially I would say like publishers have like a library of books that come out every year. They want to they have a couple like huge hits that they make most of their money on. Then they want a well-rounded library with the rest of the books. And they told me, like, if you can get this one done way faster than you did your first one, pick a great case that can fill a book, and if you can get it done in 6 or 9 months, we'll publish it. And that's kind of how it worked for me. I was fortunate with that, and it was a grind to get this one done.
I was going to say, are you a self-starter when you have a project like this in terms of keeping to writing deadlines? Are you a procrastinator? How's that go?
Earlier in life, I was a huge procrastinator, but now, yes, I'm very focused. It's hard to pull myself away. It's almost like being over-focused.
So when would you write?
Early in the morning or late at night?
One of the two.
Yeah.
And did you have like, are you a guy? I got a little office. I got a little place. I got like another place I go to get away from everything where I can focus better. What was the Lou Raguse writing approach?
Well, sometimes I'd go to the library. I love going to the library. And the one at Ridgedale, which is close to Care 11, or the one in Excelsior is another great small one. The one down in Eden Prairie or in Chanhassen. And those are great libraries that it's quiet enough.
Yeah.
As long as there's not a major kid program going on in there.
Yes.
I could just dial in for a couple hours and get a lot of stuff done.
And you didn't write longhand, did you?
No. I have a computer program that really, the organization is the main thing. Because at Care 11, I have notes, handwritten notes. I have everything in front of me when I'm writing that night's story. And then at the end, everything's in front of me. I can put it into a pile and I'm done with it. But like when you write a book, it's way more organization is required, and rereading stuff that you've written, you forget what you wrote.
That's right. Yeah. Perfect. All right, let's get a top of the hour pause in. More with Lou when we come back here in the